my life became all about, not just slightly about, but all about getting high and surpassing and bottling up emotions, just blocking them out, just blocking them out. It was a very, very suitable band-aid for what I needed at the time, or what felt like a suitable band-aid for what I needed at the time. Getting to this point in my life has been quite a profound experience. It's been quite difficult, but I'm interested to share my experience, share my testimony, share my story in order to sort of hopefully help other people through theirs. My childhood, probably a lot different from most, or hopefully a lot different from most. I was abused when I was a kid, physically and sexually. As a result of that, I became a heroin and crack addict from a young age. I lived a life of crime in and out of mental health institutions up and down the country, getting arrested all the time, getting locked up, to then really struggling through life with addiction problems, really struggling with internal problems as well, PTSD, ADHD. So my whole life's sort of been a bit of an uphill battle, but after I got into recovery, so started my recovery journey a few years ago, I went into rehab. I went down the CNA route and stayed completely abstinent from everything. As time has gone on and I've found foundations in my recovery into where I'm at, I've started exploring through different routes, so like psychedelic medicines, things that are able to sort of heal you or show you what needs to be healed within inside yourself. Because obviously, most things in life, I think, are an internal journey, aren't they? So sometimes you need to dissolve everything that's going on and be able to take that internal journey.
And I just want to reiterate, like, how damaging your childhood was, like, and how severe the drug use was, because you were sexually abused by someone that was very high in the community, very hard to
Yeah.
speak out and say, this is what really happened. And then from there, you had a full blown drug addiction by 10, 11 years old.
Yeah,
And
by
so,
12 years, yeah, yeah.
and
Um,
so this is very severe.
yeah, of course. So the sexual abuse was by a family friend. This implemented this sort of ruined my foundation of how I view love, how I view trust, how I view people. It warped my sense of judgment. I now, well, not so much now, but for a long time felt shame and guilt surrounding the situation, even though it wasn't my fault. I also felt reluctant to be able to talk about it, and reluctant in looking at it through a close lens to see how it made me feel. The drug addiction that followed then pushed me into life's a crime. It pushed me into situations and circumstances that I would never have been in had I never had those experiences or had I never done those drugs.
Yeah, and that, that leads into the tattoos. That I found really interesting about that was that you would get high and not even remember getting these tattoos and just waking up
Yeah.
in an alley and everything, and that's how you got the name the Spider, and you hated it, but when you started fighting, that was your name to like reclaim your power back. I think that's such a beautiful way.
Yeah, because I think I spent so long almost masking and mirroring who I was as a person. Like something I'm able to do quite good and quite well is adapt to surroundings and adapt to situations. I think this has come from ADHD, mirroring, masking, but also being in flight or fight and in survival mode 24/7. So I've had to mirror who I am, mask who I am, change who I am to adapt certain situations and certain people. And I've become almost that good at it now that it just happens. So like the tattoos, things like that, were a mask I could hide behind that sort of tried to almost stop people coming and talking to me. And then I would go out, I would get wrecked, I would come back with more tattoos looking different and different. And again, with the cobwebs, that's what gave me the name Spider. So for years it was sound, but I think I sort of almost developed myself into the personality that I needed to protect me when I was a young kid. Do you know what I mean? And then as as a result of that, it just became a persona. So then when I got sober and I got into fighting, I was like, do you know what? I hate this name, but it's stuck with me. So I may as well try and change it into something positive, like a positive outlet for myself.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So, going through all these programs for like drug addiction, and was it just like a loop, like nothing was working? You just kept relapsing and going
Yeah,
back?
so I only went to rehab once. I've spent a lot of time up and down the country in mental health institutions where I would get sober, I would be fine, but almost those environments are very safety blanket-ish. So like they're fine when you're in there because you're not really intergenerating back into society. You're not really intergenerating back around your problems and back around certain triggers. So they're good for getting a detox in and sort of separating yourself from the issue. What they're not good at is keeping you in that sort of structure of reality. So when I went to rehab was massive for me. It was a Christian rehab, very very God orientated, which for me worked. I'm not saying it works for everyone, but for me it worked. I then started going to AA meetings, CA meetings, and that was the first time I really sort of cemented in myself that I couldn't do it on my own. Um, the structure that A and NA give you is very disciplined. So that, accompanied with my training, accompanied with the ability to stay focused, was really good, and it served a purpose. However, coming away from it now, my respect and my views and perception on the situation are, if those rules and regulations are what you need in order to keep yourself sober, keep yourself well, and keep yourself regimented, then they're fantastic. They're fantastic. They give you a good, orderly structure and a good, orderly, precise information that's worked for millions of people that keep millions of people clean. However, I think for myself, personal development, moving away, realizing by having God in my life, getting baptized, and sort of going down other avenues of studying and other avenues of bit of research here, a bit of research there, and I come to my own conclusions in life. Like I'm my own person, so what works for me might not work for someone else, and what works for someone else might not work for me. And they give me a really good structure to get clean. However, I made an agreement with myself on a spiritual level that I was never going to do anything. I was never going to drink alcohol again, and I was never going to do drugs. So for me, I got invited. Big shout out quickly to Athlete's Journey Home and Mike Vasquez from BKB, because I think like him putting back into his athletes has really made a monumental movement. And then Athlete's Journey Home invited me out on an ayahuasca retreat. Now, when I first thought about it, I thought, I've been sober a long time. How do I feel about, I've got people in my ears telling me, "Oh, this is a drug. You're gonna go to the other side of the world to do a drug. How do you feel about your sobriety?" And then that's when I thought, like, I don't see it as a drug. I see it as a medicine. It's been around since the dawn of time, since the beginning of the world. These plants and medicines have been around for thousands, millions of years. We have survived as a human race using holistic medicines, and I did worry about my sobriety, but then because I see it as a medicine, I took a completely different step back. Like, I don't see this as a drug. I don't see it as something I'm going to go and do to rely upon. It's going to go and open up some windows and allow me to search avenues within myself to be able to still do that internal work. Like, they're not I think what some people confuse psychedelics and stuff like psilocybin and DMT and things like an ayahuasca as a magical cure, and they're not just going to magically cure you. You're still going to have to go away and put the work in yourself. But what they'll open up is windows for you to be able to. "Oh, I need to work on this. I need to be able to go on." Because I think a massive thing I think is, as humans, we structure ourselves and we condition ourselves and we build up these walls and these barriers, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, we build up these walls and barriers to protect us as humans, from other things, from other circumstantial things. And what psilocybin or what ayahuasca does is strips down that ego. So then you go back in on yourself, and without that ego there, you're, oh, right, I actually need to go and work on this, or maybe I haven't been the best in my relationships, maybe I could go and work on that. So it opens up doors and windows for you to be able to go and explore a bit deeper, to be able to come back and do the internal work.